Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Belinda and today we're going to be doing a review of the Black Widow skin tone sets. Let's have a look. So guys, I picked up my set from the art shop here in Australia and they were $17 a pack. So I got the light and the dark skin tones. I'm just going to open them up for you now. So initially I did think that there was going to be a lot of different colours and I was a little bit, I don't know, surprised. None of the skin colours were listed on the tin either. This is how they came. I'm just unwrapping them both now. So I like the way that they've put the colours on the ends of them. That's kind of good. The colours on the ends don't represent the true colours obviously, but they're very similar. So on the first initial I guess thoughts just looking at them, I did feel that the dark colours weren't particularly I guess selected for just dark skin. So a lot of people with dark skin have like a pink undertone as well, so there was no real nice sort of I guess peach or pink color for the undertones. It was all yellows and white and greys almost, and obviously there's a purple in there as well, but I felt that that was more grey than purple. So that was my first initial thought. This is the darker skin tone pack. There's also a midnight which is black, so it's exactly the same as the original set, so I was a little bit disappointed with that. And yeah, that's probably my first initial thoughts on the colours, and that was probably, you know, my first initial reaction to it was, oh, okay, that's strange. So opening up the light tone pack now, and the first thing I noticed was that they're all pink tones. So this set is kind of the opposite. It's got no real nice sort of beiges or lighter yellow tones. It really had pretty much all pink, so I guess that was a little frustrating straight off the bat. Like I could see that I'm going to have to use both packs to produce both types of skin, so I think that I would need pinks in the darker tones and I would need some of the darker colors in the lighter tones. So to get a really nice good mix between the two, I think you would need them both to be able to do that. So I did initially go and start an image with just trying to use the colors in the dark tone and just trying to use the colors in the light tone, but as I started to progress through it, I realized that I'm going to need to add and mix the colors together. I couldn't get a nice enough blend with just the one set, I felt. So yeah, I think that was my first initial thoughts on them. Also too, this has a snow in it, which is exactly the same as Casper, so again we've doubled up on two colors now that are already in the original set. Okay, so that was my first initial reaction to them. So let's have a look at the actual colors and see how they actually look down on a piece of paper. So first of all, I'm just going to use a little bit of Neenah Classic Crest and just do some swatches of the colors on that, so you can at least just see those quickly as I'm laying them down. So I'll go ahead and do that first. So the first color I'm going to try is the Midnight. Now the very first thing I noticed straight away was that the blend or mix for the leads was supposed to be exactly the same, but they are different. Straight away I noticed that they weren't as soft and creamy. They still went down fairly smooth, but I didn't feel that they were as creamy as the first set. So straight away I felt like that was different, even though they're supposed to be the same. So I just wanted to sort of let you know that I do think that they were slightly different. I don't think this blend was as creamy as the previous blends. I mean, obviously quality control wise that's a little bit frustrating because you've got it's supposed to be the same set, but when you start to lay them down they are slightly different. So just a first thing that I noticed. The second thing I noticed was that the colors, as I was laying them down, they were not as bright as some of the other colors in the Black Widow set, so they're really quite dull, muted colors. I mean, obviously for skin you don't want like bright rainbow sort of colors, but you want at least to have some color going down though. You don't want to have to sort of go over it too many times to get a nice sort of dark color down. So I just felt that the pigments were a little bit more muted and perhaps not as nice as what the original sets were. So I'm also noticing as I'm laying them down that I'm going to have trouble doing some types of dark tones because there is no pink. It really was all browns, and there was only a couple of colours that had a little bit of yellow through them, and there was nothing with sort of pink through it. Some of the darker browns had a real nice red sort of brick colour to them, but they didn't have I don't know, there's a nice pink sort of undertone that can be in dark skin as well. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I didn't feel that they really were suited for dark skin, and that the colours were really picked out well. So I guess I was kind of disappointed straight away. I felt like that, you know, you're putting some money into these sets and you want them to be actual skin colours, and I really wanted them to be a completed set. So I wanted to be able to sort of put them in with the rest of it and go, yep, I really like this whole set. There's lots of good skin colours. You know, it's a great mix of colours throughout. There's nice bright rainbow sort of colours through there. There's a couple of good colours to blend through. But really, I guess in all honesty, I wasn't impressed with the total outcome of all of the colours. In the way that I'm saying that now, I'm not giving them a bad review. I'm just stating how I feel, that I felt there wasn't really a good sort of mix of colour in them. And maybe they'll be perfect for you and you can get a great blend, and that's fantastic. And, you know, I hope that you can, of course. In the end, when I mixed the two sets together, I was actually okay with them. I probably won't use them again. I've done a speed colouring in an image with them, and that's probably the last time I will use them. So for me, they kind of went right down on the bottom of the list, and they're not something that I was like super keen and super excited to use, I guess. So moving on to the lighter skin tones. So I guess I had the same kind of initial thoughts on this set that I did with the darker ones. So this one had a whole heap of pinks, but didn't have any sort of nice light yellow undertones, or nice sort of beige colours, or yeah, they were just these pink sort of colours. Also too, initially I thought the snow was the only one that was similar to the other sets, but I found that the fairy floss is the same as, I think it's the delicious pink, and the pretty pink colour in here is the same as the fancy pink. You know, like the colours were exactly the same. Well, not, maybe not exactly, but it's close enough to exactly the same colours. So they weren't even different pink tones. They were too similar to the ones in the original set. So yeah, so far I guess I'm giving you the impression that I'm not impressed. But look, as I said, once they were together and I used them together, they weren't as bad as what I initially thought, just laying down the colours. But I think that they could have been better. There could have been better choices in the colours that were chosen, and there could have been a better, I guess, mix for dark and light skin. There are two colours in this light set that I kind of thought really stood out, and I was a little bit sort of confused as to why they're in there. One of them is Carrot, which is like a bright orange colour, and it's exactly the same as the burnt orange in the Scorpion set. And also the Sunshine Yellow, I think it was called. Sunburst it was called in this set. It's bright yellow. It is slightly different to the other yellows in the other sets, but I really couldn't figure out in my head where these two colours would fit into light skin. So two things that I was a little bit confused about as well was those two colours in particular that are really quite bright and out of place. So just finishing up the swatching now, so I guess I'll just sort of summarise what I've just said throughout that whole little section there. One, I was disappointed in the colour range, and I do believe that there are colours in there that don't fit. Two, I think that the blend of the pencils is slightly different to the original sets. It's not as creamy, the pencils are slightly harder. And three, I guess we need to find out what it's like on other papers, hey? Just putting down the white, which is the same as Casper or Snow, it is in this set, and also too, I'm coming up to the sunburst colour that I was talking about earlier, and you can see how bright that is. So all that aside, I need to actually use them in an image to see if I can get some good mixes with them. Otherwise, it's just not going to be, I guess, accurate in my opinion of the colours. So before I do that though, I want to go and do a couple of paper tests. So once I finished just swatching these light colours, I'm going to go and show you how they worked on some different types of paper that I have. I've done a couple of reviews using these little swatch pieces of paper, so I'm going to do the same thing with these, so I'll quickly run through those with you as well. So I'm going to use Sarah Colours donut wheels that she made, and I'm just showing you here that this is on the Neenah Classic Crest. We've got the dark tones on one side and the light tones on the other side. The pencils came out quite smooth. You can see where I've burnished down the paper. Some of the darker colours were a little bit spotty, but the rest of it seems quite smooth on this particular paper. And you can see the colour range as a whole here as well, and see, you know, where colours might be missing and where it's not quite right. But we're going to go through these colour swatch pieces of paper and swatch some of these Black Widows on this paper. So I'm just going to pick some colours that might blend together. I think to start with, I've got here Carrot, Saffron, and a little bit of the Sherbet. So we'll try that first. I may need to swap out actually and put a lighter colour in there, which we might grab Merc a little bit later just to see them blend together really well anyway. So I'm going to start first of all with those three colours, and we're going to do just like a little scribble test on each of the pieces of paper, and then we will try to do some blends on some of those as well. The first piece of paper that I'm using is the Canson My Tides pastel paper. This is the white, and it's 160 GSM, but it's got one side of it is really rough for pastels, and the other side is really smooth, which you can use with pencils. I'm not even going to try to blend the rough side. You just can't blend on it. It is not for pencils, and it takes incredible amounts of pressure to get the tooth of the paper really flat. So I won't try to blend on this particular one, but I just wanted to show you how it laid down on them anyway. So moving on to the smooth side, you can see that there's still a fair bit of tooth on this side of the paper, which is good, and I'm just going to show you the blend with it as well. To be honest, most of the papers that I tried it on weren't too bad. I found that they would blend together quite well, and there was a lot of pigment coming down on the paper, so they were quite thick and creamy on the papers, which was really good as well. So this one's just Canson coloured card. It's only 185 GSM. It's kind of just like a standard drawing paper. It's nothing special. We can get it here in Australia well, we used to be able to get it from Officeworks and from Spotlight, but they no longer stock it anymore. But it is just a general sort of paper type that I just wanted to try to show you on general paper. It went down quite well. It didn't have as much pigment come out because there's not as much tooth on the paper, but it did blend out quite well with those colours as well. I did swap over to the Merc as well because it was a little bit lighter, and it sort of gave a more realistic sort of blend through from a dark to a light colour. So quality wise, coming up now, I don't mind them. The colours are probably their biggest downfall. The blends and the mixes that I've been doing have been quite nice. So this is the Neenah Classic Crest Solar White Smooth. This is the 80-pound version. This has hardly any tooth on it. It's a really soft paper, but I really love it for a lot of different types of pencils. And it even blended out the Black Widows quite well as well. It is a bit of a shame that the colours let them down so much, because the pencils for a beginner are quite okay, and I think that you could get them down on a wide range of different papers and colouring books and things like that as well. So yeah, it is really disappointing that those colours let them down a lot. So this blend came out quite smooth also. So I'm going to move on to the Strathmore series. This is the Strathmore Tantone Mixed Media paper. This is the 300 GSM 400 series. It's awesome paper. I love it. It really makes your colours nice and bright, and it really lays down pencils really nicely. So I expected them to work really well on this. However, as I started to lay down these colours, they're actually quite dull. I think I did say earlier in the video when I first started laying them down, and I felt that they were very muted, and you can really see that on this paper because this paper usually picks up those bright colours really well. I was actually quite surprised in how the lighter colours came out on it, just not as sort of bright, and didn't lift up as much as what some other pencils do on this particular paper. So you can see, even just using the purple on the left side there, how bright that lightest purple came up, and you can tell here with the Merc that actually didn't come up really as bright as that one did. So the paper I've got now is called Quillboard. This I actually do get from Officeworks in Australia here. It's just 200 GSM. It's just nice thick. I guess it's cover card maybe. It does print really well, and it's got a little bit of a tooth for pencils, which is really good too. So I'm just going ahead to do this blend. This one came out alright as well, so making me think that normal colouring book paper would actually be pretty good with these. So that one came out alright too. I'm going to move on and do just some black paper. Also too, I just thought I'd mention the pencils that were in the purple were another set that I reviewed earlier on. So I actually can't remember if it was the teasers or if it was the Amazon Basics. I can't remember which one. I tried on that with the purple. But this is just a craft card. It's just black. It's quite thin. There's no sort of anything special about this particular paper. It is just craft black paper. I did find that the colours came up really nice on it, but most colours do come up nice on black paper because it really does push forward all of those really light mixes. But yeah, all of the colours mixed well. Even the dark colour still came out on it quite nice also. I want to try some Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper. I was actually really quite shocked with how this one came out on this particular paper. Actually, I think this was probably the best one out of all of them. It was nice and smooth. The pencils went on it really well. They blended on it really well. And it's probably the first lot of pencils that I've actually used on this paper that I've actually really liked on it as well. So there you go. Two odd things going together. Just doing up the blend for this one now. So overall, I felt that the pencils were actually okay with the way they laid down, the way that they blended, and my favourite sort of papers were the Neenah Classic Crest and also the Strathmore Bristol Smooth. The paper that I found quite interesting that didn't work really as well as some other pencils was the actual Tantone paper, so that's a little bit odd. That happened, but you can see how muted that is on the Tantone paper towards, measuring it up against some of the other coloured papers that we've got here as well. But overall, look, the laydown of them was good. They were still smooth. They weren't as creamy as the original set, but they were still good. So in this last section, I've just done two blends with each set, and I ended up having to mix the sets together to get the nice smooth blend. I did one dark and one light. The books I'm actually using, or the images, are from Emmanuelle Colin's Coloriage Wild colouring book. I think this is number 2, and I'm just going to let you guys watch and see how it ended up coming out. I did possibly not like this paper. The first book, I think the paper in the books might be slightly different, because the first book I used the Black Widows on and they were perfect. I did have a lot of trouble blending them on this, so I ended up using some Zest It in the end to smooth it off, because I felt I could still see the pencil strokes through it. It wasn't as smooth as I wanted it, and yeah, I ended up bringing in some of the lighter colours into this as well, so that I could get some nice pink tones, or pink undertones in it as well. So, but overall, I managed to get a nice dark skin colour portrait, and I managed to get a nice light skin colour portrait. I did try with the lighter ones only to use one colour from the dark set, just for the shadow areas, but I did find that it was slightly more orange than I would have liked it to have been. I do believe I needed to have a little bit more perhaps yellows in there to get a sort of nicer, more neutral colour, but in the long run I just wanted to show you guys how they turned out. So guys, after using them, I did feel that they were not too bad a quality. The paper perhaps not quite good for this particular pencil set, but I really did get a nice blend of two different portrait colors, so a dark and a light skin, while using both the sets together. So something that I wasn't expecting, and I'm actually quite pleased with how they ended up coming out. So if you would like to see a full video and the colors that I used for these two portraits, then I have got this available for patrons as a raw video. So if you want to check that out, it's in the description below. I'll also pop the links for Emmanuelle Colin's book, also the Amazon links, and also other links where you can purchase the Black Widow pencils as well. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and click the notifications bell if you want updates of when I update new videos. Shadow! Shoosh! And you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those, and also Shadow has her own Instagram too if you want to check that out. Thanks again for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video.